tiger, elephant, Asiatic buffalo.
We're live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. UN Security Council passes Gaza aid resolution after days of delays, demands safe and unhindered aid deliveries at scale. France detains 2 people as Nicaragua-bound plane with Indian passengers grounded. India gets consular access, says situation being investigated, ensures well-being of passengers. Significant legal victory for Donald Trump after US top court declines to fast-track Trump's immunity claim in 2020 election case. And now the latest on the Israel-Hamas conflict. The United Nations Security Council has passed a resolution calling for urgent action to get more humanitarian aid into Gaza. The move comes after days of delays as UN members negotiated on a draft text that was palatable for all those on the Security Council. DD India's William Denselor reports from UN headquarters in New York.
After numerous delays and plenty of diplomatic wrangling and negotiations, finally, the Security Council felt in a position to take this draft resolution to a vote. The United States and Russia abstained. They were the 2 nations to do so, but crucially, they did not use their power of a veto, which meant that with 13 nations of the 15 on the Security Council approving this resolution, it was adopted.
We know so much more needs to be done to address this humanitarian crisis and to lay the groundwork for a lasting peace. And let's be clear, Hamas has no interest in a lasting peace. Hamas is determined to repeat the horrors of October 7th over and over and over again. And that is why the United States supports Israel's right to protect its people from acts of terror. And I'll note that the resolution does not support any steps that would leave Hamas in power, which in turn would undermine the prospects for a 2-state solution.
What it calls for? Well, it calls for urgent steps to immediately allow the safe, unhindered and expanded humanitarian access and to create the conditions for a sustainable cessation of hostilities. That is a marked difference from the language we saw earlier this week that called for urgent and sustainable cessation of hostilities. The resolution also calls for the UN to appoint a coordinator to establish a UN mechanism for accelerating the provision of humanitarian relief consignments to the Palestinian enclave. It calls for the immediate release of Israeli hostages and for all sides to respect international humanitarian law.
We supported this resolution, which will streamline aid checks so we can massively scale up the humanitarian response. It demands the immediate and unconditional release of hostages, and it calls for steps towards a sustainable cessation of hostilities.
As far as Israel is concerned, well, they said that the UN Security Council should focus more on condemning Hamas and freeing Israeli hostages than negotiating this text.
Israel not only has a right but an obligation to guarantee its security. This is why our mission to eliminate Hamas's capabilities has not changed. And this is why security inspections of aid will not change. Israel will not permit the regrouping and rearming of Hamas, as the atrocities of October 7th can never be allowed to repeat themselves.
We heard from the UAE, who was a sponsor of this resolution, saying that while it isn't perfect, there are real hopes that this can at least facilitate more humanitarian aid to enter Gaza, as well as to see more done to protect humanitarian workers. William Denslow in New York, reporting for DD India.
Well, the spokesperson of the Israeli Defense Forces, Daniel Hagari, has reacted to the UN resolution adopted by the Security Council. The IDF spokesperson said that the resolution includes a demand for the unconditional and immediate release of the hostages held by Hamas and to allow humanitarian access to address their medical needs.
It's important tonight to say that in today's decision by the UN that passed few hours ago and accepted by Security Council, the demand which was raised for an immediate release of the hostages without conditions and to allow humanitarian access in order to get medical needs for the hostages held by Hamas, we call on the international community and the international organizations to implement the decision.
Meanwhile, the United Nations has called for release of hostages held by Hamas.
Began its military operation in response to the horrific terror attacks launched by Hamas on 7 October. And nothing can possibly justify those attacks or the brutal abduction of some 250 hostages. And I repeat my call for all remaining hostages to be released immediately and unconditionally.
Well, the White House on Friday has said that a dual U.S.-Israeli citizen believed to have been abducted by Hamas was killed during the raid in Israel on the 7th of October. The citizen, named Gadi Haggai, a 73-year-old man, was reportedly taken alongside his wife, Judy, near Kibbutz near Oz in southern Israel on the 7th of October. It is believed his remains are being held by Hamas in Gaza. However, it remains unclear exactly how or where he died. The Hostage and Missing Persons Families Forum says 5 to 10 U.S. citizens are still being held hostage. And updates now on the Russia-Ukraine war. The Russia and the Ukrainian armies continue to exchange fire on Friday, with each side claiming hitting the other's military targets. Russian Defense Ministry said during the past week, Russian forces successfully repelled multiple Ukrainian offensives and attacked Ukrainian military infrastructures, bunker and other targets. Meanwhile, Ukraine claimed that it shot down 3 Russian Su-34 fighter bomber aircraft. And Polish Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski visited Kyiv on Friday in his first official foreign visit. Sikorski assured of Poland's support to Ukraine in its fight against Russia. Sikorski's visit also focused on resolving problematic issues between the two nations, including cross-border problems. Poland hopes that truckers' protests on the border with Ukraine could be solved before the end of the year.
As regards Ukraine's struggle for freedom, this is not an issue of compromises. This is an issue of what we can all do together to make enough military equipment and enough ammunition to send Putin back to where he belongs, which is in Russia.
Well, also, Polish truckers have been blocking several crossings with Ukraine since 6th of November, demanding the European Union reintroduce a permit system for Ukrainian competitors. They resumed the blockade of one of the main crossings at the Ukrainian border this week after a short break. Meanwhile, Sikorski also met Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who expressed hope to open a new chapter in the two countries' relations.
To new team, our congratulations. We really hope that we will open a new chapter in our relations, really support relations between our governments, between ministries of our countries. I think we are very strong neighbors with common history. And today we face Russian aggression, and as you can see, the war is not over and no one knows what will be tomorrow. And I think we should stay stronger together.
And moving on, France has grounded a charter flight headed to Nicaragua carrying 303 Indian passengers. The flight, carried out by Romanian charter company Legend Airlines, had departed from Dubai and landed at the small Vatry airport on Thursday afternoon for a technical stopover when police intervened. 2 people have been arrested for questioning in this regard. A judicial investigation has also been launched into the conditions and purposes of the trip. In a social media post, Embassy of India in France said French authorities informed it of a plane with 303 people, mostly Indian origin, from Dubai to Nicaragua, detained on a technical halt at a French airport. Embassy team has reached there and obtained consular access. The embassy further said it is investigating the situation and also ensuring well-being of the passengers. And the Consulate General of India in San Francisco has asked the authorities in the United States for quick action against the perpetrators who were involved in the vandalism of the Swami Narayan temple in California's Newark. The Indian Embassy in San Francisco posted on X, and I quote, "We strongly condemn the defacing of SMBS Sri Swami Narayan Mandir at Newark, California with anti-India graffiti. This incident has hurt the sentiments of the Indian community. We have pressed for quick investigation and prompt action against the vandals by the U.S. authorities in this matter." And the United States Supreme Court refused to immediately rule on the former President Donald Trump's claim that he cannot be prosecuted for trying to overturn his 2020 election defeat, allowing a federal court to continue reviewing the case. The decision came as Trump faces a slew of legal troubles. The court, responding to an extraordinary request from special counsel Jack Smith, denied a request to surpass the federal appeals court's ruling on Trump's request for criminal immunity before his trial, which is set to start in March next year. The court issued its orders without any explanation. The court may still decide to reconsider the issue later. And now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. Rising sea levels are threatening Nigeria's coastal communities in the southwest town of Eyewitnesses. More than 80% people have left their homes. Initially, the town was several kilometers away from sea, but in past 2 decades, it has been gradually invaded by sea water. Once a home to over 30,000, Eyewitnesses is now left with mere 5,000 people. Delivering a message of hope and the festive cheer of the night before Christmas, U.S. President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill Biden visited the Children's National Hospital in Washington, D.C. on Friday. Embracing the holiday spirit, they captivated both young patients and their parents with a lively reading of the classic holiday tale. Over 2,000 underprivileged people in Berlin on Friday attended the traditional Christmas dinner for the needy and the homeless. The event is organized annually by 81-year-old singer and actor Frank Zander. Zander has been organizing the event since 1995. The event had been cancelled due to the coronavirus. It took place on Friday for the first time since then. Parisian landmarks have never looked as appealing as during this holiday season, with various restaurants and stores offering Yule logs in the shape of famous Paris buildings. Foodies can take a bite out of a miniature Opera Garnier or eat the Sacre-Cœur Balisca's iconic dome. People can also enjoy the Opera Garnier log made from chocolate, biscuits and coffee, and orange blossom-flavoured Sacre-Cœur Basilica-themed Yule log this festive season. And with Christmas just knocking at the door, Santa Claus once again is on the go and will be coming to town and country, covering the entire globe. Santa, with his reindeer-powered green transition-approved vehicle, brings all the world closer together. And still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Mexico assures U.S. of assistance at the border as the surge of migrants increases and disrupts cross-border commerce. ISRO chief says Indian scientists will land on the moon in the next 25 years, and Aditya L1 will reach its destination in January next year to study the sun. And Manchester City beat Fluminense 4-0 to clinch first club World Cup title.
have with us Mr. Nipendra Mishra, who heads the Ram Temple Construction Committee that was constituted following the Apex Court's order of the land site at the Ram Janmabhoomi.
The country is capable of deciding its fate. This country has to decide how secular we are, and perhaps I do not want to mention this secularism in this country is far beyond, much more advanced than the so-called secularism that is practiced by most of the developed countries. We have not rushed through it. We have ensured that every construction, everything which is being done there is as per the highest standards.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. And moving on, Mexico's President Andrés Manuel López Obrador announced on Friday that his government will strengthen its efforts to control immigration as it seeks to assist the United States in dealing with an unprecedented surge of migrants attempting to cross its borders. The announcement comes after he spoke with U.S. President Joe Biden, during which the two leaders agreed that more border enforcement is necessary as the surge of migrants disrupts cross-border commerce. On Friday, the United States reopened two border crossings with Mexico 5 days after the two crossings were closed due to an increase in migrant traffic. The White House has thanked Mexico for its efforts to reduce migration in the region. And thousands of Argentines took to the streets for a third day to protest against President Javier Milei's decree ending limits on exports in a bid to salvage an ailing economy. Protesters gathered to call for a nationwide strike as riot police moved in to stop protesters from blocking streets. The decree, signed by the country's new president Javier Milei, contains more than 300 measures designed to implement economic shock therapy to correct the country's macroeconomic imbalances. The country is in the midst of a recession, triple-digit inflation, and a rising poverty rate. And Cuba on Friday authorized euthanasia, the practice of ending life of a patient to limit suffering, as part of its legislation, updating the nation's legal framework for its universal and free healthcare system. There was, however, barely a mention in Cuba's state-run media that the government would approve the practice with no public debate.
Terms such as euthanasia were removed from the law and instead used the important plural of determinations. This law legitimizes a right that was demanded during the family's court debate. Many people refer to it. It is the right each person has, based on their own dignity, to determine how the end of their lives will transpire.
Well, the National Day of Mourning is being observed in Czech Republic to pay tributes to the victims of the worst mass shooting of the Central European nation. Czech President Petr Pavel joined hundreds of mourners on Friday at the Charles University headquarters in Prague to pay tribute to the 14 people killed by student gunmen on Thursday. Also, eyewitnesses of the mass shooting in Prague recalled the scary and shocking moment, feeling lucky to escape from the miserable incident. The Czech police said that the identities of the 14 victims had been confirmed and there were no foreign nationals among them. Meanwhile, 2 Chinese students in the building at the time of the incident were lucky to escape because of a printer failure. According to Czech media reports, the country has relatively loose gun control regulations compared with other EU countries. The motive behind the shooting still remains unclear.
There was a problem with the printing process when I heard messy chaos upstairs. I was about to leave and almost got outside of the building after finishing the printing when they quickly called me back as they heard the sounds from upstairs. In case I didn't have the problem, I might have come face to face with or been involved in the incident. It's quite scary to think about it now.
And the last French troops deployed in Niger to help fight a decade-old Islamist insurgency in the Sahel left the country on Friday, marking a significant blow to France's influence in the region. France's military exit was a key demand of a junta that seized power in Niger in July, similar to those in neighboring Burkina Faso and Mali after earlier coups there. Niger had remained a key security partner of France until the coup. Early on Thursday, France said that it was planning to close its embassy in Niger for an indefinite period. And President Emmanuel Macron of France will visit India next month to attend the country's 75th Republic Day celebrations as its chief guest. Macron thanked Prime Minister Modi for his invitation to be the chief guest at India's 75th Republic Day celebrations. Macron posted a message on X, and I quote, "Thank you for your invitation, my dear friend Narendra Modi, India on your Republic Day. I'll be here to celebrate with you," unquote. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said that India looks forward to receiving French President Macron as chief guest at the 75th Republic Day. In a social media post, PM said, and I quote, "My dear friend, President Emmanuel Macron, we eagerly look forward to receiving you as the chief guest at the 75th Republic Day. We will also celebrate India-France strategic partnership and shared belief in democratic values." Bin thought, unquote. And the chairman of India's space organization, ISRO, Somnath, said that India will have its own Bharat space station. Addressing the young scientists at a science conference in Ahmedabad in the western Indian state of Gujarat, Somnath said Indian scientists will land on the moon in the next 25 years. He called upon the student scientists to contribute towards building a developed India by using their knowledge and potential. Leading scientists, students and researchers of the country are participating in this conference, which is being held from the 21st to the 24th of December. Also, Indian Space Research Organization Chief Somnath said that the country's maiden solar mission, Aditya L1, will reach its destination, the Lagrangian point L1, which is located 1.5 million kilometers from Earth, on January 6th next year. Aditya L1 solar mission, launched by ISRO from Sriharikota on September 2nd, will study the sun from a halo orbit of L1 and gather data for the next 5 years. Lagrange points are positions in space where the gravitational forces of a two-body system like the Sun and Earth produce enhanced regions of attraction and repulsion. In a way, these can be used by spacecraft as parking lots in space to remain in a fixed position with minimum fuel consumption. The mission's success is crucial for India's growth and understanding of the dynamics of the Sun.
Aditya L1 will enter L1 point, Lagrangian point, on 6th. So that is what is expected. Exact time will be announced by appropriate time. 6th of January. When it reaches L1 point, we have to fire the engine once again, give some speed reduction so that it doesn't go further. So it will go to that point, and then once it reaches that point, it will rotate around the point and it will be trapped in that L1 point, Lagrangian point L1, which is a point between Earth and Sun, which is where the gravities are cancelling each other.
And India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar attended the third convocation ceremony at Rashtriya Raksha University, Gandhinagar, in western state of Gujarat. Minister said that it has been an achievement of Indian diplomacy that we have been successful in forging relationships with multiple and often competing powers. He added that India's security across borders scaled up post-2014.
Strenuous efforts have since been made, especially in the last decade, to correct the shortcomings of the previous ones. The overall development of our national strengths that we have seen since 2014 have clearly had positive repercussions in the security field. Whether it is external, internal, or at the border, there are some basic components of these capabilities that all of us are familiar with.
And India is observing its former Prime Minister Chaudhry Charan Singh's birth anniversary on the 23rd of December. On the occasion, Speaker of India's lower house of Parliament, Om Birla, paid floral tribute to the ex-Prime Minister. Chaudhry Charan Singh was the 5th Prime Minister of India. His birth anniversary is also celebrated as Kisan Divas or Farmers' Day. And on to sports news now. Indian Sports Minister Anurag Singh Thakur paid a visit to the Sports Authority of India, National Centre of Excellence. Union Sports Minister closely observed the facilities that are being provided to the athletes at the Sai Centre, Bengaluru. An Indian women's cricket team takes a massive lead of 124 runs against Australia after end of the first session on the third day of one-off test in Mumbai. Australia went to lunch at 63 for 2 after India scored mammoth 406 runs in the first innings. Australia deployed a short ball tactic today morning and wrapped the last 3 Indian wickets inside 45 minutes. Pooja Vastrakar played a few pull shots to get to 47 before perishing. Deepti Sharma top scored with 78 as India was all out for 406 with a healthy first innings lead of 187 runs. In the second innings, Australia's 2 left-handers, Beth Mooney and Phoebe Litchfield, started positively but threw their wickets away. And Manchester City beat Brazilian side Fluminense 4-0 in the final to win the first ever Club World Cup in empathetic fashion. Julia Alvarez scored the fastest ever goal to cap a remarkable year by capturing the 5th trophy of 2023. Nino scored an own goal in the 27th minute, deflecting a shot with Phil Foden sideways into the net. Foden put the game away in the 72nd minute when he slid to poke in a hard cross across the box from Alvarez. Alvarez completed his brace in the 88th with a strike from just inside the box. And as Christmas is just round the corner, celebrations begin around the world. In the northeastern Indian state of Assam, the nursing team at Apollo hospitals celebrated Christmas with decorations and carol singing at non-critical patient areas. Many moderately ill patients enjoyed the carol singing and their hearts filled with festive spirits. And that's all we have for this edition of DD India Live. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Kurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.